All right. So this is feeling very weird because I'm actually talking to somebody and talking to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. So for those who don't know, today we're actually going to meet Zameer, who is our amazing provisional psychologist, who is based mainly in Temora, but also goes to Cootamundra, Junee, and Wagga, just because we like to have a bit of variety. So I keep him busy. And so kind of wanted to introduce you guys to Zameer, and he's going to teach us a little bit about mindfulness because he's kind of my mindfulness guru. So I don't know, Zameer, do you want to introduce yourself and say anything about you? Or?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I am a provisional psych. I am in my last year of internship, and I've done a bit of mindfulness, I guess, over the years. My first interaction with it was in a group. I was kind of a guinea pig in a group experiment for group mindfulness. That's part of DBT therapy. Okay. So we had to practice it for like 12 weeks, and it really, really made a difference. So I pursued it further and, tried to get more involved in group sessions and individual sessions and just learn as much as I can about it and incorporate it into my therapy as I started seeing clients. So yeah, it helps.
Awesome. So, because I guess, like I kind of talk about mindfulness on a very basic level. I have an app, and that's pretty much what I know about mindfulness. Like, seems to be like what I know about it at the moment is just that it's about being present in the moment. So I'm kind of hoping today you can kind of just explain a little bit more about it, because I'm sure there's more than just the app that I use.
Yep.
So I guess, like, what is mindfulness?
Okay. So that is, I guess, to understand what it is, maybe I'll give you a bit of a history about it. So if you Google mindfulness, you'll get a lot of spiritual, maybe hipster type yoga, meditation things. Now, not to say that that's bad or anything, but when you're doing it from a psychologist's perspective, you have to work with, I suppose, more of a Western philosophy, which is more evidence-based philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely, because everything has to have evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. So mindfulness is based on meditation, which is, I mean, there's over 1,000 years worth of people practicing it, and books about it, and and people saying it's wonderful for life and everything, but it's difficult to incorporate those concepts into sort of everyday life. Now, there was a lady called Marsha Linehan who was dealing with borderline personality disorder, which is BPDs, I guess the acronym for it. And what she did was she found that if you do mindfulness as part of treatment for borderline, it's really helpful. And she came up with what's called dialectical behavior therapy, which is DBT. Now, DBT is made up of 4 different modules, and one of them is group mindfulness. So that was the first incorporation of mindfulness into modern day psychology, which was, I believe, in the late 1980s, but don't quote me on that. And what she did was she sort of translated the Zen meditation mindfulness practice into behavioral language. So she looked at what, original meditation and that kind of thing was trying to achieve, and put that in terms of like evidence-based theory and put it into practice, you know, in terms of what Western philosophy says should be done, right? In the words, the way it should be done. If I'm making sense, I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what mindfulness is. It's incorporation of really old techniques into modern day therapeutic style interventions, and it really helps, you know. I can tell you a bit more about it,
Yeah.
like what it actually is.
Yeah, because I guess that was sort of the next step is like if somebody wants to have a go at mindfulness, like what does that look like?
Yep. So I know it sounds kind of complex, you know, when I say things like evidence-based practice and all of that, but the concept of it is, it's really, really simple, right? It's becoming mindful, right? It's becoming present and at one with your surroundings, right? Now I'll elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you're in a situation, right, you're being bombarded by, at any given moment, by a lot of stimuli, right? You're in the outside world. There's all the things around you that you can see, that you can hear. There's the emotions within you that are, you know, coming and going like the wind, and there's all the thoughts that are happening that are also, you know, very pervasive in particular disorders, that they come in like a flood, you know, and you don't know what to do. You don't know how to react. So you just kind of pick one and run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mindfulness kind of allows you to take a step back and become aware of everything that you're feeling, your thoughts, and the world around you. You know, it allows you to step back and say, all right, this is what is happening right now. You know, so it's you kind of label everything that's around you. You label your emotions, you label your thoughts, and then once you know everything that's there, that's around you, and that you're feeling, then you can more properly go forward and say, okay, I want to focus on this emotion right now, or I want to focus on this thought, or I want to focus on my cup of coffee as opposed to my cup of tea. You know, I don't exactly, right? So it's really good in that sense, and it's really easy to start doing.
So you share that. I'm curious about this because as somebody with ADHD, I'm very aware of everything.
Yeah.
Too aware of everything. So how easy is it really to do?
Okay, so now see, you're an adult with ADHD.
Yes.
Right. That means you do have, being an adult, a fair level of insight into how the mind works and how the world works and all of that, right? But
so being a psychologist, that hopefully.
I mean that was a little bit. Yeah, but if you're a kid with ADHD, right, it's even worse because you're still learning. You're learning a lot more. The let's say the learning curve is a lot steeper when you're a child. You have to learn a lot more every day. Now, I still manage to do mindfulness with kids with ADHD, right?
Really?
Yes, and they take it pretty well. So I may or may not bribe them with gummy bears, but
so I think you have to. Okay, you're gonna have to elaborate on that one for me. When you say bribe them with gummy bears, do they have to do the activity and then you give them gummy bears? Ooh.
No. Okay, so let me give you an example of one type of mindfulness that I do.
Yes, please.
Right? Or a gummy bear.
Yeah.
Whatever, or a strawberry.
Keeps cutting out there.
Really. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so we'll take. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so a gummy bear or a chocolate or a strawberry, and you just kind of put it in your mouth, but you don't chew it, right? And you just focus on the sensations that arise when it's in your mouth.
Yeah.
Right? Now, people don't think about it when they're eating food. When they're eating food, they're thinking about, you know, the the hot date that's sitting across the table from them, or what they have to do after lunch, or they feel guilty that they're eating, you know, too many donuts, or whatever it is. You're focusing on everything else except the food.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So if you think about it, there's a lot that you can tell when you put something in your mouth, right?
Yeah.
So I'll list off a few things, right? Like, say if you put a gummy bear in your mouth, right? A lolly, you can tell the shape, you can tell the size, you can tell the texture, you know, whether it's rough, whether it's smooth, whether it's got bumps, nooks, crannies, whatever it is. You can tell the weight of the food, you can tell the balance, you can tell the smell from when you chew something, right? A lot of the times. The temperature of it, whether it's hotter, whether it's colder, whether the different parts are hot or cold. And that's not even taste. All of that is just sensation. Yeah, it's just sensations that sort of arise that you can tell about the object without even focusing on the taste, right? So you don't think about these things, right?
No.
But if you take a moment to be mindful, to just sort of focus on what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
For 1 minute. Now it's not some long meditation where, you know, you're sitting there like Om for 2 hours. It's 1 minute at a time. And I encourage the kids that come in, you know, to do it once or twice a day before they sleep or before they go to school. And it calms you down, because you're kind of focusing on one thing, you know, as opposed to focusing on 10 different things, right? So the analogy that I give, and it might be a bit out there, but it usually works, right? Is, say, for example, if you have ADHD, right? And I tell you not to think about something.
Gonna think about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I tell you, don't think about a zebra, right? What comes to mind?
Lots of zebras.
Exactly. Okay. If I tell you, no, seriously, right? You know, a zebra with 4 legs and the swishing tail and the mane and the vertical black and white stripes, you know, with the shiny black nose. Don't think about it, right?
Yeah, no, it's there.
It emphasizes it more in your mind, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when you have ADHD, you get fixations, right? Certain things just come into your mind and they're just there, and
yep,
that's it. It's the same if you have autism.
Yep.
It's the same if you have depression. It's
Yep.
the same if you have anxiety,
Yep.
borderline, bipolar, whatever it is. You get these fixations and you can't get rid of the thoughts, right? Now, mindfulness is not something that blocks out other thoughts. It doesn't, it looks at things non-judgmentally, right?
Yeah.
So it's not to say that some thoughts are good or bad, but it allows you to choose which thoughts you want to focus on. Now, let me put that into words that are easier to understand. So say that zebra, right?
Yeah.
Let's zoom out a bit. Tell me what else you see in that picture in your mind.
Complaints. Zebras.
Mm-hmm.
Some other animals, some gazelles, giraffes.
Yep.
This feels really
maybe
bad.
Some mountains in the back, maybe a sunset.
No, it's a hot day. There's no sunset.
It's a hot day? Okay.
Middle of the day.
Okay. Okay, now let me put a bit more detail to this image, right? Let's say to the left, you get a patch of long brown grass, right?
Yeah.
And in that grass, you can see a lioness crouching, right? And it's looking at the other animals. It's stalking them. It's hungry, right?
Yeah.
It's crouching down. You know, when a cat crouches down on all fours and its ears are perked up and it's alert.
Yep.
And you can see its muscles kind of rippling. It's a sleek, beautiful cat, and it's ready. And you know, it's doing that thing where it's checking where it steps so that it doesn't make any noise, you know, and it's staying downwind from the animals. right? And it's stalking its prey, and it's looking at this one gazelle, and it's got that gazelle in its sight, and you know it's about to pounce and it's about to take off. How big is the zebra in your mind right now?
Oh, the zebra disappeared.
Exactly.
It was just this
Right?
tiny. Yeah.
It makes it smaller. So it's about the amount of mental resources that you dedicate to a certain thing, right? If you can bring your attention to one thing as opposed to another, then that thing is going to take up your whole, yeah. And the more attention you give to it, the more focus you give to that lolly in your mouth, the less all those other worrying thoughts are going to take up your resources. Does that
really cool?
Make sense? Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Well,
hoping other people do the visualizing while you're talking about it, because it really does. I do feel you have an unfair advantage there, because for those who don't know, Zameer actually grew up in Africa, so he's actually seen it. I'm thinking, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, a lion hunting is beautiful. Okay, I feel like I should say a little bit more about what mindfulness is. So it's not just the lollies, right?
Yeah.
I do it with tactile sensations. So
something like
you give, something like that. You give a child a pen, or a person a pen. There's so many things again that you can tell about a pen. There's the texture, the length, the hardness of it, the different functions, the writing, right? The writing on the pen, the weight, the balance, the density, the temperature. You can tell all of that without looking at it. If you just close your eyes and focus on it, right? There's a lot you can take in from your senses. So the way I do the mindfulness is 1 minute at a time. We pick one of the senses, taste or smell or touch, tactile, or sight or sound, right? You pick one of them and you focus on something for 1 minute. And now what will happen is your thoughts will drift. And it's okay. That's the purpose of mindfulness. It's to be non-judgmental. You recognize the thoughts when they come. So let's say you're thinking, let's go back to the lolly.
Yeah.
You have the lolly in your mouth, right? And the fragrance of it reminds you of the fragrance in this really nice candy store that you once went to in Melbourne, right? So you go, now you start thinking about that candy store. Then you start thinking about the last time you were there. And you start thinking about who you were with when you were there. And you're like, oh yeah, I was talking to this person. And then after that, I remember I went out into the street and it was a sunny day. And then we went and we had these noodles. Oh, those noodles. Next thing you're thinking about you going clubbing 6 months ago in a big city, as opposed to thinking about the gummy bear in your mouth, right?
Yeah.
So that's it, right? When that happens, people punish themselves and they criticize themselves. They say, listen, you're not supposed to be thinking about that.
No, that's
right? That's not mindfulness. That's being judgmental about yourself. It's okay. It's natural to let your thoughts drift. But when they drift, you remind yourself you're supposed to be focusing on the lolly. So you gently bring yourself back. And the more times you do that, the more times you get better at bringing yourself back to just focus on the thing in front of you, the better you get at it. So over time, over a couple of weeks, you'll see slowly your attention will improve. Slowly, your ability to focus, to concentrate on one thing will improve. Slowly, the anxiety that you have with the multiple thoughts and the spiral of thoughts and the emotions will improve, because if you don't want to focus on that, you can bring your attention back to whatever's in front of you.
Because that is very much a different way of handling it. Because, like as you said, like with ADHD, we get absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of thoughts and things that run through our head, and there is a lot of negativity around that inability to be able to concentrate on what you want to.
Absolutely.
Because despite, regardless of what a lot of people think, we don't actually want to get distracted. We want to be able to do what everybody else does, kind of.
Yeah.
So I can see that being pretty powerful, just to be a bit gentler on ourselves and go, well, that's okay. Just come back to what we're doing.
Slowly come back to it. Okay, see, I'll give you a really good example of how both the kids and the parents can use mindfulness.
Yeah.
Let's say if a kid has ADHD, right? And he's struggling with concentrating in school,
Yeah.
right? If he uses the mindfulness slowly,
Yeah.
Theoretically, his concentration skills should improve a little bit. Of course, there's other interventions that you need.
Yeah.
Sometimes medication is needed, that kind of thing. However, it's one of the tools, right? So let's say that he's practicing mindfulness. Now, when he can't concentrate, it's natural for a parent to get annoyed. The parent gets angry and starts shouting at the child,
Yeah.
right? So what is the parent doing in that situation? The parent is acting on an emotion, right? As soon as that emotion hits, the parent snaps, and goes,
Yeah.
why are you not doing this? Why are you failing to do this? What's wrong with you? And that is so bad. Sorry?
Yeah. Why can't you just concentrate? And yeah.
Exactly. And that is not good for the child because, like you said, it's not like the child is not trying. The child is trying their best. These kids that come in to see me that have ADHD or behavioral issues, they're not bad kids. They really want to do well. They want to please their parents. They want to do well in school, but they can't,
Yeah.
So if the parent stops for a moment and looks at their own emotions and says, okay, I know I'm feeling angry and it's natural to feel angry. And it's okay to feel angry. Is that something I want to focus on right now? What else am I feeling? Am I also feeling like helping? Am I also feeling that something else can be done in this situation? Let me try and focus on that.
Focus on that.
And by giving the child more affirmations, by saying, listen, I know you're struggling to concentrate. What else can we do in this situation to help you concentrate? Do you think more regular breaks will help? Or do you think another learning style, whatever it is, might help? The child will get reinforced for trying. Their behavior for trying should be reinforced. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So that the child will be able to learn and focus better. The parent-child bond will improve. The parent will get less angry over time, manage their emotions better.
Which is always a good thing. Yep.
Yep. And I mean, it helps so much, and you can do all of that by taking a minute or two out of your day to just
to do this.
Have a lolly,
I don't know too many kids who'd complain about that either. So really, it's kind of got a benefit for everybody. And I guess the other side of that, when we're thinking about parents, is often parents themselves also have ADHD, whether or not it's been diagnosed. And so even if they're coping in lots of other ways, because I see parents who probably have ADHD, but because of their work and whatnot, they manage it okay.
Yep.
But these are the difficulties that can come up because they're also more prone to poor concentration and emotional difficulty and that sort of stuff. So it's really helping both at the same time.
It is absolutely. And it's tough to to bring about change, right? To start addressing your child in a different manner. I often say with ADHD, because of the fixations and that kind of thing, it's not about telling the child no or telling the child what to do. It's about how your goals and the child's goals can both be met.
Matching them up.
And how we can sort of negotiate to say, okay, you want to play video games, I want you to clean your room. How do we go about doing both of that in the next 1 hour?
That actually ties in with an approach that I use. I'm just looking from, I don't know if anybody's seen this book, The Explosive Child by Ross Greene. And it actually ties in with that. It's about instead of just going, you're doing the wrong thing, or as you said, telling them what to do instead, it's working together. It's a collaborative approach to
absolutely
differently. So it kind of seems to be mindfulness is nearly a tool that can make everybody more aware of where they're at to be able to stop and do something different to
Yep.
work together to a common goal.
Absolutely. And
Awesome.
it's not easy, you know, trying to get a parent to talk to their child differently, you know, because
Habits are
the
hard.
way they address their children is the way they're taught.
Yeah.
You know,
So
the way they're taught forms the knowledge.
yeah.
They're sort of, let's call it their knowledge bank, right?
Yeah.
It's tied to their sense of identity.
Yeah.
So if you challenge the way a parent talks to a child, you're not just challenging the way the parent talks to the child, you're challenging who the parent is as a person.
They are, yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it's tough trying to break that cycle, right? That's kind of, mindfulness helps with that black and white thinking, that, you know, that I'm wrong, you're right kind of thing. You know, it helps with
finding the gray.
Yeah, with understanding that, you know what, there's more than one emotion, there's more than one answer, you know. And let's take a step back and understand, if we don't like an answer, is it because we feel negatively towards it?
Yeah.
You know, or like, why don't we like it? Let's take a step back and look at it.
Is actually, that's really cool. So somebody wanted to have a go at you. So you know, they come along and they say, right, you know what, I saw this awesome video on YouTube, teach me mindfulness. How long do you reckon before they're likely to start seeing results? Is there kind of a time where you think that if they're practicing it regularly, they should notice?
You know, it's tough. It depends on each person, I think. Very often, I'd say in about 2 or 3 weeks, if you practice it regularly, you'll start seeing changes, right?
Yep.
Now the thing is, you know, when you talk about mindfulness and you say it'll help you calm down, it's not entirely accurate. It does help you calm down, but that's if you've been practicing it all along.
So if you just do it once or twice, or just
exactly, if you just do it when you're upset, you haven't practiced it. You're not used to bringing yourself back from that train of thought into the moment. You have to train yourself to do that. It's like when you're upset, when you're emotional, whatever it is, think of that as a rain and the rainy season, and think of when you're in a good place, when you're not upset, when you're not emotional, that's summer season, right? Doing mindfulness will protect you from the rain. It'll allow you to get wet only as much as you want to get wet, right? You can choose what emotion you want to go. Now, if you're building a shelter for the rain, you can't start building it when it's raining.
It starts raining. Yeah.
You have to build it in the summer to prep for the rainy season. So you practice it every day. When you're in a good place, that's the best time to start, you know, implementing mindfulness techniques to allow yourself to become more aware of what's going on in your body. And then when something happens, because in everyone's life, something inevitably does happen. When, you know, things hit the fan, right? Then you have to be able to say, okay, I can see all these emotions that I'm feeling. Let me take a step back and choose what I want to focus on, right? You can't do that if you have no practice doing that, right? So some people will go away for a week and, you know, come back and say, oh, every time I got upset, I tried mindfulness and it didn't work.
And
you know, but
so like basically from what you're saying, it's nearly leaving it too late.
Exactly, right?
And
it takes a minute, and a minute is not long.
No, like I guess even as a mum, you know, being a single mum, all that sort of stuff, you can generally find a minute, maybe on the toilet with the door locked, but you can find that minute. And even with kids, that's really cool. So for kids, is there a particular age where they're kind of too young? Because like I can see like it's going to work up till adulthood, but you know, what sort of age would you start looking at mindfulness techniques?
I've seen it most effective from about 8-9 years old. That's the regulatory stuff, like working with the lollies or working with the tactile stuff.
Yeah.
The ones younger than that, what I do is the guided sort of sessions where I'll do a body scan, right? Remember, becoming aware of your environment, your body is part of the environment, right?
Yeah.
So you become aware of what's tense and what's
Body.
not tense and what's relaxed, you know? So you do a scan and you say, okay, close your eyes and start thinking about your toes, you know, and curl your toes and uncurl them and see, you know, try and relax your toes, try and relax your feet, right? For personally, for a quick body scan, what I do is I pick 3 or 4 body parts,
Yeah.
you know, and I just take 10-15 seconds to just focus on each body part and just try and relax it. Because when you're stressed in everyday life, you start tensing up and you don't realize it. Like right now, for example.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, like right now, for example, if I say bring your attention to your shoulders or your stomach, right? It must be tense. Take a breath and just relax and focus on just easing the muscles, and you'll see what happens then is then the body starts sending feedback signals to the brain saying, hey, listen, I'm chill,
It's okay.
everything is okay, you're not in fight or flight mode, you don't need to be, you know, chill. And the brain also just relaxes the mind rather.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I mean, the most pressure points are usually not pressure points. That's the wrong word. The most tense is the feet,
Yeah.
the tummy, and the shoulders,
Yeah.
and then sometimes the face as well. You know, you're sort of scrunching up and you're concentrating. If you just take a moment to just, you know, relax everything, it makes a big difference.
That's really cool. That is really cool. And that makes a lot more sense. That's probably better than just my explanation of this. Here's this great app.
I mean, there's a lot of apps. The apps, they work. Smiling Minds is a good app.
Yeah.
You know.
That's the one I go to. So.
Yeah, yeah. But personally, I find once you've gotten the hang of it, you know, whether you're using apps or someone like me, then you're good to go for the rest of your life. You don't need any guided meditation sessions or whatever it is. You can just stop in any environment and take a moment and just center yourself, you know?
That to me sounds like, and not even just like for kids or people with ADHD or anything, that just sounds like an amazing skill for
It is.
everybody to learn.
Everyone should do it, you know? That's what I think. Otherwise, we're kind of a slave to our emotions, you know?
Absolutely.
Slave to our thoughts. And our thoughts are not the absolute truth. You know, when a thought comes into your head, you tend to automatically believe it and act on it. You know, it's not the be all end all. If you can take a step back and separate yourself from the thoughts or the emotions, I think you can make some really, really good changes. You know, you can align your values with the decisions that you make. You know.
I love that. I think I've just been thinking while we've been talking. I reckon I'm thinking about some ways that we can do some more of this in the clinic. So, because I know that you do a lot of it with your individual sessions, but I reckon we try and make it. I've got some ideas to try and make it a bit more accessible to wider audience, because not everybody needs to come in for sessions as such, but
Yep.
some ways of sharing it, because I think it's
Absolutely. I mean, last year when I did the group mindfulness sessions here in Timora, just about everyone that came for one ended up coming for, you know, the rest or as many as they could, because they did find it helpful, you know. So while the turnout was not big numbers, the turnout that was there was recurrent, you know. So I think that shows that people that tried it, it really helped.
It helped, yeah. And I just think the more people that we can share that with,
Absolutely. It's a really great skill to have. And it informs all my other types of therapy, because I mean, most therapies get you to change your thoughts or your thinking, or change your emotions in a certain way using your thoughts or using your behaviors.
But you really need to
And
be
the
able to recognize, stop and take a step back and recognize that before you can even do that.
exactly, you need to sort of understand the parts of the bicycle before you start to fix it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's mindfulness is kind of my first step before implementing any other types of therapy, you know?
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. Because I know we sort of
Pleasure.
tossed around doing this stuff for a while. So that was really good. And you might have to give me some supervision in it. We'll do something unique where the prof site gives the site supervision. So the other way around. So thank you so much for that. If anybody out in YouTube or Facebook land wants to find out some more or would like to meet up with Zameer and learn some mindfulness for yourself, there's no waiting list at the moment. So feel free. And I'm going to do my random pointy thing like I did in the last video, because I don't know where things show up, but there will be phone numbers or links somewhere down. It depends. I think Facebook is kind of up there, and YouTube it's down there. And so if I just point everywhere, there will be a phone number. So thank you so much, Zameer. We are going to do this semi-regularly, because I know you've got heaps of great stuff that you've been working on that we can share. And I think you were right. Both of us talking is much more fun than just talking to yourself. So yeah. I have publicly said that.
Awesome. Well, it was fun. It's a good exercise for me to refresh my knowledge base as well.
It is. So thank you so much for that.
It's been a pleasure.